my channel, guys. Hope everybody's having a great day. Now, the Houston Texans breaking news: they fired their GM Brian Gaine, according to NFL Network's Ian Rappaport. I want to read you the statement that the Houston Texans issued about the firing of Brian Gaine. After a thorough evaluation of our football operations, we have decided to relieve Brian Gaine of his duties as general manager. Brian is a man of high character, and we appreciate his contributions to our organization. We will begin an immediate search for a new GM, and the interim football operations will be led by Senior Vice President of Football Administration Chris Olson. While the timing may be unusual, the decision was made in the best interest of our organization and our quest to build a championship team for the city of Houston. Aaron Rappaport also followed up his tweet about the firing, saying, "My understanding is there was no, or it should be not one incident that created the opening. Houston did an evaluation of his football operations and believes, right or wrong, GM Brian Gaine was not good enough. Good, but not good enough. Stunning." He followed that up with a quote in a tweet saying, 18 months ago, Brian Gaine was Texans coach Bill O'Brien's choice as GM. He left a great situation in Buffalo. The team went 11-5 and made the playoffs, and now he's out. It is a cold-blooded business. And before we get into this, I would like to read the NFL.com does ranking of the draft. Like I said in my expectations videos about certain teams, that they rank the teams 1 through 32 about who had the best draft to the worst draft. The Houston Texans were ranked 31 with a C-. I'm going to read a little bit from that before I get to the firing. We're all in agreement that the Houston Texans had to make protecting Deshaun Watson the focus of their draft after he was sacked a league high 62 times last season. Unfortunately, the Eagles knew that too and beat Houston to the punch. Yes, Philly traded one spot ahead of the Texans in round 1 to land the draft's top tackle, Andre Dillard. That stings, and Houston should have seen it coming. The Texans could have traded up for Dillard, and no one would have argued with spending a little extra draft capital to fill such a monumental need, but instead they ended up with what seems like a reach. And Howard at 23, he was ranked as the 50th best prospect by both Daniel Jeremiah and Gil Brandon. Do you like the upside of Howard, a former draft pick? Yes, really in parentheses, but you just wonder about the value. Now, with that being said, the reason why I don't like this firing is because you could have did it before the draft. If you guys thought he was good, listen. Let me backpedal just a little bit. He has great character, high character, and all this stuff. You could have did this 2 months ago. Now, that's what I'm saying. Like, you guys could have did this 2 months ago, and it would have been a better situation for the Houston Texans if they did it before the draft or did it before free agency. Now that you got that out of the way, you would have had a new GM by free agency. You could have did this right after the Super Bowl, right after you guys lost your playoff game. Then you guys could have had moved along and said, you know what, we're going to let him as GM here. So now we're going to fire him right after the season's over. You did a good job. You were good, but you weren't good enough. You see how that works there. So now we're going to move along. We're going to get a new GM. And if the new GM wants a different coach, we're going to work it out for 1 year. And if after a year, the coach and the GM not on the same page, obviously you're going to move up from the coach this time instead of the GM. Now, a little backstory real quickly. The Houston Texans had a general manager named Rick Smith, who obviously stepped down due for personal issues with his wife. And after that, they hired a new GM because he stepped aside and went to go focus on his family. Okay, I get that. Because him and Bill O'Brien did not see eye to eye and for different things like that. So they got the GM that Bill O'Brien wanted, which is fair. Okay, you got a new GM that you wanted. Okay. But now that you're firing this GM, this sends a bad message to the head coach of Bill O'Brien, who wanted this GM in the first place. So now that you did this, it just sends a bad message, and it sends that, hey, okay, you want this GM. We didn't think he was good enough. We don't care. We did it after free agency, and we did it after the draft. So now that we did that, now you wanted your guy. This was your guy. We didn't like your guy, so now we're going to move on. Which sets to me that they are losing faith in Bill O'Brien as their coach, because obviously you guys lost to the Colts coming in. And basically, on paper, you guys are kind of better than the Colts, so that's just my opinion. You guys are better than the Colts on paper. Now, with you guys doing this, to me, it sets a bad standard in the organization because it makes it seem like the Houston Texans are dysfunctional coming off of a playoff appearance last season. You can't come off a playoff appearance last season and fire your general manager for not being good enough. You should have did this earlier in the year, which you would have got a new GM. If you didn't like the coach, you could have fired the coach and just got a new coach and said, hey, we're going to turn the organization moving forward. We're going to draft the best players. We're going to move ahead of the draft to get a certain player that we do want. Now that you guys did this to me, like I said, I'm repeat myself again, It sets a bad precedent in the organization, and to me, this states that Bill O'Brien's on the hot seat because now, if you guys bring in a new GM, who says that this new GM wants Bill O'Brien to be the coach of this team? It does not look good for Bill O'Brien right now. Maybe, maybe not. Maybe the new GM is gonna like him. You could. All I'm saying is, and like I said, I'll repeat myself again. You could have did this earlier. You could have got the players that the new GM wanted. And now, when the new GM comes to the team and he's going to want to change everything up, then fans are going to start to get mad if they do something negative because they want it to be their way instead of the other way of the other GM, etc., etc., with the coach, different things like that. So now you bring a new GM, and now him and the new coach, your coach, Bill O'Brien, might be butting heads. To me, this is just not good. It makes you guys even more dysfunctional. I can't believe I'm saying this, but it makes you look more dysfunctional than Cleveland. To me, the Houston Texans have to get it together. To me, they should have just did this before the draft, and now that they've done it, to me, it just looks really, really bad. And now you're going to have to find a new GM right before training camp starts. It's just setting a bad precedent. I would be screaming and hollering and just going off, but we're going to see how this turns out. We're going to have a positive because you guys, like I said, you guys came up for playoff appearance last year, so we'll see what's going on. But for me, I do not like this move at all. I think you should just, if he's going to sign free agents and draft players, you should have stuck with him for at least one more year. And then you should have fired him because now Bill O'Brien's going to be on the hot seat with a new GM coming in because it's not his GM that he picked and you fired his guy. Sad situation. I hope Brian Gaine gets another job somewhere else to be employed. Obviously, you don't like certain guys to be fired, different things like that. And by the way, to what Ian Rappaport's credit, he did leave a good situation in Buffalo because they had just made the playoffs. So he left a good situation to become a GM, and after 1 year, you guys kicked him out. It shows that you're dysfunctional. Thank you for watching the video. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, share the video. I'll be back with more videos. Until next time, guys, thank you for watching. Peace.